Hello, good evening. You're catching. It appears that this is. I would suspect that people that know me are my subscribers, and people that know me better than my subscribers know that my show is a lot of paranoid narcissism, and uh, and I really think that I have very a very larger audience than what I suspect, and also a very powerful audience. And I think that tonight's episode is particularly interesting to those of whom I'm referring to, and because tonight I actually saw 7 News Denver, Colorado, put out a video specifically of something that would combat. I don't like to get into specifics. I don't want to have to deal with something later, but I really wouldn't care anyway. But the thing is that it has to do with a conspiracy theory that I put out as I was analyzing potential suspects for whoever it was that may have actually shot the Sikh temple up and shot the movie theater up in Aurora. And I speculated that the spa shooting that occurred afterwards was in fact a revenge attack on this individual. And while those things may still be true, I kind of, basically this person is, unless this is very clever CGI work, this person is wrong and cuts back a good half of what I had speculated. Because even in the video, though, I did speculate that the person may have been captured. And then I speculated, well, it just seems unlikely that this person may actually be dead as a result. Why did I say captured? Well, because the story was that when the cops raided the Sikh temple 7 days after the spa shooting, this guy had a backpack which had zip ties and duct tape. And I felt like that was a sign that what this individual had done was arrest, attempted to maybe get answers. Like, you have to understand, like, if you were actually going to, let's say you know somebody's part of a conspiracy, you've obviously got a whole story to tell. You can do way more damage to the people that actually did something to you by getting that person to admit a lot more, implicate a lot more, because it's a conspiracy. By nature, it's going to entail a very large ring of persons. So basically, when they raided the Sikh temple 7 days after the spa shooting, what they would have done was stage a reason for going into the temple. And when they went into the temple, the guy had zip ties, duct tape, crime scene tape from Aurora, a gun. He was trying to write a book. And this is actually more, I think, indicative that this was, not just something that they created up on the spur of the moment, but this was a story by the American government, maybe saying, like I said, it was like, "Hello, Thomas Franklin." Now, a lot of people are like, you just got proven wrong about something, and you have to understand, like, I didn't settle on that. In fact, I wrote it best right here. It says, I said I wasn't going to go live tonight. I was going to actually bunker down. But anyway, I just decided against it. I didn't really care. But you have to take these kind of precautions. Everybody else gets to dick off and have fun in the power structure. People like me know that there's a conspiracy and know that we stand opposed to that conspiracy. So life can be pretty dangerous, right? Not okay, but anyway. I said I wasn't going to go live, but now I guess I have to. I guess I will have to address the new information. I, of course, have entertained the idea that this was going to happen. There were 3 other people who were reported to have shot up the temple, so it didn't have to be a specific person. That's right. So the witness of the Sikh temple shooting, was essentially saying that four people walked down. 4 white males walked in and shot the temple up, and then basically it comes out later that it was only one person, the one person killed himself. Okay, and then I said, and the guy that they got from the temple, so the Avenger, right, the guy that I call the Sikh Avenger, he had zip ties and duct tape. Even in that video, James Holmes was based on me and I blew the Aurora off. I said I didn't settle on it. I just said I honestly think that's the case. However, I did speculate. I think that this person there may have been an attempted capture and interrogation. Okay, and I really do think it was a foreign national. I think a foreign national would know how to do it, and that would explain how that person was managed to stay off the radar. It was somebody that wasn't listed, blacklisted by the Americans. So word got around to perhaps the Indians, whatever their intelligence agency is, or law enforcement, whatever agency is, and then this person decided to do full interrogation at that time, or may have been coordinated. It might not have been government, Indian government. Could have been just a relative that decided to do it on his own. Anyway, we're going to back this stuff up in just a minute. And the guy that he got from the temple had zip ties and duct tape. So if it was a specific person, as I speculated in the video, I contested that the individual may have simply been captured. And I'm not going to go into, well, let's just talk about what I think recently backs up the spa shooting. And it was a nice article written by the news over there in Milwaukee, and it says in that article, good Lord, where is it at? If you will, just give me 1 second. Basically, the people that got involved. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay, the people that got involved. Okay, so if this was just a domestic incident, and really not that many people got shot in comparison to a normal shooting, you had the whole government the whole mainstream media was covering it. I should tell you about the alignment of the mainstream media whenever they go rogue, so to speak. And you had President Barack Obama. Barack Obama was directly involved in it. In fact, this article is titled, this was released a couple days ago, written up a couple days ago. FBI Director Barack Obama monitored Azana spa shooting scene, records show. So Robert Mueller, FBI Director, Barack Obama, and Barack Obama was on the phone with now CIA Director, starts with a D, whatever his name is. Okay, so this was not just some domestic incident. Now, the justification they're saying was, well, that must have been, they thought it was a terrorist incident, basically. Okay, but the article says, quote, after Hofton was identified, this was the alleged shooter, Patsy, whatever, Jones wrote, basically this person wrote in an email, quote, I am told subject is not in FBI files other than words redacted. In blacking out those words and other parts of the documents, the FBI cited Freedom of Information Act exceptions allowing it to redact sensitive law enforcement information. Get this, the agency found 96 pages related to the spa shooting, and they released 78 with redaction. So there was 96 pages, and 78 of those were only released. So there's another, whatever that is, 20 that wasn't released, and then the 78 full of redactions. Okay, so I mean, there's quite clearly something fishy with the spa shooting, and I already know what's fishy about it. Okay, the earliest reports contradict the later reports. The fact that it took them 5 hours to find this person, supposedly. The fact that they put out a alert for being on the lookout for an individual who was non-African American, often ends up looking very African American, non-African American. They described him as dark-skinned, and then they actually used the word, and I never hit this home in my video, ethnic. They described him as being ethnic in appearance, and clearly he has a accent, and clearly he was being spoken to by the person who was supposed to be his wife, saying, "Sir, please calm down. These are peaceful people here." That is likely to be a foreign national. So, you know, I don't know. I don't really, like, did I speculate that this person could have been captured? And not only that, but, you know, there's 3 other people that this could have happened to. There's 3 other people that could have been subject to this capturing. And this person actually doesn't look very easy to capture, but when you have a revolver in your hand, you kind of have to do what you have to do, right? So, anyway, zip ties and duct tape. I'm just falling back now into the position that this was captured. But I didn't even think that this was a big deal. This is like that death of Tony Scott thing. You know, it's just something I'm mentioning because it could vary, because there could be kernels of truth to it. However, when it comes to, you know, possibly figuring out that there was a COINTELPRO operation occurring online, or that, or just the inconsistencies with the shooting, I feel like I can actually prove Aurora was a conspiracy at this point through the explosive devices that went off and ate the motivation behind the conspiracy. Anyway, I'm done with that. Let's go ahead and, you know, but I will say this: if this person, because the whole point of this was to troll me, basically, they were like, you know what, we're gonna let Brinkley really position himself on this, and even the people that I knew were kind of like, what if he turns up alive? And I said, well, I'll just fall back in the position that this person may have been captured, zip ties and duct tape, and the fact that the individual okay, I don't know why it kicked me off right there, but I'm glad that I checked. Yeah, so where was I? Oh, I guess there's more to talk about. Now, you know, I'm at pretty good risk, so 1 hour from now, that shooting was supposed to happen. That shooting of which I may have played a major role in even causing. That shooting which I played a major role in uncovering, and then I played a major role in perhaps the outcome of what occurred after that. Okay, I don't know why it kicked me off right there, but I'm glad that I checked. Now, okay, so let us take a look at what else there is to talk about. Oh, what I'm trying to say is this is very important. If this guy ends up on the mainstream news, if he ends up on the mainstream news, then it will be very indicative. Like if tomorrow he's like a premier course, you know, a premier sort of witness to be paraded around, because what they're doing to smokescreen the Aurora thing, what they're doing to smokescreen that is they're staging like hundreds of protests in all the cities for Trayvon. So there's not going to be talk about the about this about the Aurora thing, which is extremely blowbacky. And the thing is that uh, um, there's already protests lining up. So you've got all the Sandy Hook people. This is really crazy. 1 second, please. You've got all the Sandy Hook people, and you've got a lot of the Aurora people, like Barton and people like that, who I think are, you know, obviously people who are involved in the cover-up, are, yeah, I have to say think now. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is they're all getting together, and they're going to start protesting guns, and then you've got people reacting to that, coming out there to protest for guns, and there could be a potential for something. It's very heated, and it's the day before. So when something happens, like they're already kind of getting ready, like that may all just be feds. So they're kind of getting ready for something to possibly happen at that remembrance event. And so I suggest that we keep our eyes on it. But I will say that if they pull out this person, this primary suspect basically, and they do interviews with him tomorrow in the mainstream media, and it kind of depends on what show he's on, but basically it will be a trolling sort of thing, and it will highly indicate whether or not we're being simply placated by these people. Because if they bother to put him on the mainstream media, it will indicate that that we've been just sort of placated. By placated, I mean like we're not actually being led in a good direction, and because that's the only reason they would do that. There's at least 800 people, those both of those theaters who could testify, held over like around 400 people. So you know there's 800 people in just those two theaters alone, right? And yet they're going to parade around these individuals. You know, this is the kind of stuff that could bite you in the ass, but I don't really care. I don't mind attention being turned towards me or my story, so to speak. And there is, I need you to say, I need people to understand that I will not break the law. There's no suiciding. There's no martyrdom. There's nothing wherein I would break the law. I never have broken the law in my entire life. So that's important to note. I'm never going to do something like that. I'm too smart for it. But you know, like I said, if they put the person on the mainstream media, this will be a trolling event. Okay, trolling is this new word that has come out, which is like getting a rise out of you, shoving something in your face. There's probably some sort of complex analysis that I could give behind it, but I'm not going to do that. In fact, I'm actually, okay, but let me say this, okay? Let me say that if they do that, then we'll know what side they're on. Because if they do that, that will be very brazen. That will be sort of in your face, and I will personally know which way things are going. Okay, so then you will have to stop being placated. You'll have to go full-blown resistance mode, which may even be the purpose of it anyway. Okay, let's take a look. So yeah, they're staging all of these Trayvon protests to occur, and this is clearly going to smokescreen whatever may happen at the Aurora Remembrance event. Certainly, Aurora, and I would want it to. I want Aurora to be mentioned very often on the mainstream media, but where they decide to go with it, I don't know. And let's take a look. This is really insane right here. On Lunatic Outpost, pinned. Sometimes they pin super bombshell stuff. They sometimes don't, but whenever they do pin something, they do it early, and it's usually bombshell. So Lunatic Outpost pinned. It's got stories linked here at guardian.co.uk. It says developing top NSA and Department of Justice officials have fled the U.S. Obama. All right, let's see. I'm just going to read it to you. In a stunning development, Deputy Director of the NSA, John Inglis, along with Assistant Attorney General James Cole, have fled the United States after their participation in a contentious congressional meeting on Capitol Hill. In that meeting, both Inglis and Cole revealed that the depth of NSA spying far surpassed anything that whistleblower Edward Snowden has made public to date. The unauthorized leaks to Congress by Inglis and Cole, which exposed more about NSA spying than anything Snowden has revealed, shook congressional leaders to the core. So yeah, I mean, certainly the people, like, that's crazy. You know, unless that stage, which I have speculated that there's a controlled conspiracy going on, the top NSA official fleeing the U.S. and saying, yeah, we have way better capabilities than just listening to people. The problem with the NSA is the capacity to literally predict human behavior, right? If you can predict and run, you know, permutations on human behavior, then what you have is the ability to control the public. That's like mass mind control, and it's probably definitely been occurring, and is occurring around you even right now. Let's go ahead and go a little further on some stuff. Let's see. I said, okay, so I was developing that video game, you know, and the original game, Deus Ex, did much to actually literally predict the way things are now, what ended up happening with 9/11, etc. So I thought, you know, let me make a game. Let me remake the old one, because the old one, I mean, the second one ended up saying the Illuminati are controlling both sides. It was a game about controlled opposition, which was they were making fun of the fact that Pepsi and Coke, they were calling it Queequegs and Pequods, and they were coffee companies that they ended up being owned by the same parent company. And that anyway, there's these two factions, and then you find out that appear to be at war with each other. In fact, some sort of like a terrorist faction, some sort of a global, you know, capitalist faction, and it turns out that they're both being controlled by the same people. And then the justification is like, we're the Illuminati, and we have to do these things in order to lead humanity into the spot, you know, into the light, basically. But anyway, in the game, I was going to redesign it so I would work in the Zionist angle, and I would be like, okay, let's say that at some point, and this has probably actually happened, maybe even at 9/11, but and it can persist to this day, that there would be a divergence of values. So you would have basically these, you know, this Zionist value, which ultimately kind of points towards this racist world war government, but essentially this servitude to a specific race, to a specific nation, and it would basically be like a very superstitious thing because they're all trying to bring about the Messiah and stuff like that. And then you would have like the Masons or the Illuminati, and these people are just they're thinking like, we just want to unite the world and bring humanity into this control structure where we're controlling them, but it's not necessarily like out of tyranny. It's this way of like it's this you know, this trying to, you know, I can't remember how I was going to do it. Anyway, the Illuminati and the Masons would have had this diverging goal as to who was going to control the world, and so I thought like maybe that at some point they'll come to contention. And indeed, I think, as in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, there was this move by Zionists to infiltrate the Masonic lodges, the Masons, and co-opt and or subvert their capacities specifically for the agenda that they had in mind. It's kind of documented, basically. So, you know, I thought, well, wouldn't that be interesting if there was this invisible war where these two factions were at odds, and I think that may actually be occurring. That may actually be occurring where the secret society, the secret societies of that would have come from the that would have started around the mid 1700s would come at odds with the other secret societies, which were sort of aligned to the Abrahamic myths, you know. So, you know, is that necessarily occurring? Are they trying to make it look like that's happening? I don't know, but I just find it interesting that that's what it kind of looks like what's going on. And so let's see. Somebody put out a really nice photo. It has like the prism thing, and it says, with all this surveillance and spying, how could pedophiles, rapists, murderers, war criminals, violent drug cartels, slave traders, despots, demon-worshipping child killers, terrorists, traitors, etc., and I'm going to go ahead and throw in there just people who are breaking the law doing illegal drugs. You know, I don't mind people doing illegal drugs, but let's say if it's illegal, then how is it so rampant, etc.? Be unhampered in their activities unless those who are the ones running the surveillance and spy grids, unless those are the ones who are running the surveillance and spy grids. Yeah. So the black market is the way by which any sort of underground activities the people could ever be engaged in will inevitably be sniffed out. Why? Because all the people doing all the secret stuff is controlled and propagated by the government. And I just hate that system really bad, and I don't know how to express that. It's really anyway, yeah, if they can listen to everything, then why is there even crime? You know, if they can predict everything, if there's so much capacity for the institution of pre-crime, why is there crime in the first place? And am I justifying these things? No. It's because the crime and everything is happening because the same system that's spying on everybody is promoting it. They're actually spying on people not to promote and propagate and make sure that somebody isn't talking about, oh yeah, I totally know this guy that's a demon-worshipping child killer. You know what I'm saying? So that's why they're spying on everybody. It is a curious matter why some of us are even alive to even say that. All right, let's see. Maybe it's we'll just talk about that later. Obviously, this system is relatively in its infancy, and we're doing what we can to stop it while we have the ability to. And has that passed? I don't think so. I think it was very, very close. It is very, very close, and so we all need to, if we have the capacity, do what it takes to alert people that have the power to stop it. Anyway, Obama, I said Obama, okay, so Obama finally comes out, you know, after all of this race baiting, and he's going to come out and he's going to, you know, talk to people as though, and address this whole, you know, I can't believe that Zimmerman's brother, and this just shows you the danger of everything being controlled about this. Zimmerman's brother was like, he had problems with Obama, but he was like, I'm kind of glad Obama came out to address the issue. And it's like, no, you need to understand something. Obama, the whole reason, okay, besides the mainstream media, because you can't tell if the mainstream media overreacted first, you know, but whatever, Obama's part of the mainstream media, so, the conspiracy. So, assuming everything is legit, which it's not, but assuming it is, then Obama gets in and literally incriminates your brother for a year, and to such an extent that now that your brother's fine, he's actually at risk of being incarcerated anyway, and he has to look over his shoulder every day because nobody believes he's supposed to be without incrimination. So, you know, there's, you know, but people are, you know, generally that dumb. In fact, it took Obama to bring this to light. Like the day after it happened, I was like, that's not like a problem with Stand Your Ground. Like Zimmerman shouldn't be using Stand Your Ground. It looks like Stand Your Ground applies to Trayvon. Like Trayvon is obviously the one being aggressed upon. And so what does Obama say? He's like, I'm like, oh, Obama now looks like he's a savant saying something I said the day it happened. Stand Your Ground protected Trayvon. It didn't even apply to Zimmerman in the original official story. Right. So the person that is even paying attention to you, aggressing upon you, is the person of which Stand Your Ground is not going to apply to, you know. So why on earth would, you know, maybe people make an argument about threat continuum, whether that threat continuum is warranted, you know, but the Stand Your Ground law is just like, don't mess with anybody, you know. If you mess with somebody, then, and you engage in some sort of a threat continuum, because it could be said that this guy who's following somebody in the dark who came out of their car and exerts a certain threat continuum or a certain threat to that person, especially when it's dark. And there could be, you know, you don't know, this person could shoot you. You know what I mean? So Stand Your Ground's, you know, I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I just want to say that here's Obama, like a year afterwards, now coming out to say something that not a single person has said, you know. First off, there's tons of people that even pay attention to the news. I mean, that don't even pay attention to the news, or pay attention to laws, or pay attention to any of this stuff. Okay, that's the vast majority of the public. But then there's the group of people that do. And then only a small minority of the group of people that even pay attention to the news even get their voice heard on the air, or their voice heard even on the internet. Okay? And then there's the majority of us who have these varying opinions. So I can't really tell the level to which humanity is that stupid that they had to wait for Obama to come out and throw out this Twilight Zone paradigm shifting, like, hey, what if Trayvon killed Zimmerman right then? Don't you think Trayvon would be incarcerated? You know, that wouldn't go free? So dumb, so divisive, like they're prodding people. So then I said, you know, in that video, now either Obama, like, you have to understand, like, Obama is a Manchurian candidate. The man has been groomed for presidency. They even, like, ran pieces on, here's how you can read Obama's body language, and Obama, you can tell Obama's telling the truth. Well, how incorrect was that? Like the Discovery Channel did it or something like that. And anyway, Obama is now imitating paranoid narcissism, and I just don't fucking care. I'm just going to go and say it. He's imitating my mannerisms, probably intentionally. I could say subconsciously. Like if he's watching my videos, then maybe he sort of subconsciously picked them up, but no, it looked totally intentional. And what he was doing was, instead of looking up and like whatever, he's actually kind of like looking down, looking reflective, like even somebody commented, he looks so reflective. And looking away and barely lifting his eyes up to like not make eye contact. It was just odd. It was, in my opinion, it's not something I consciously do. In fact, it's actually poor body language to have, because if I were to explain it, it would be like I'm not engaged with the person I'm talking to. I'm just getting that person to listen to what I'm saying, because they couldn't possibly contribute. Like I performed the dialogue in my own head, basically. And so if you want people not to like you, sure, go ahead and continue that behavior. But you know, it was funny to actually watch that happen. What else is there to say? I looked at the David. Well, you know, that's kind of it. I guess I'm just going to go ahead and talk about. I mean, that is kind of an interesting thing to talk about. Oh, I guess I need to look at the comments. But yeah, when it comes to the guy being alive, it's like it's not really honestly, it's not really a big deal. It is kind of a big deal because I'm going to be able to play off of that now, and you know, just in a morbid way, I'm glad the person was alive because I enjoy having his audience basically. I didn't want him to miss out. But anyway, Cat Ruby says, I'd rather concentrate on what you got right. So Hello Thomas scenario makes it yours to do the work. Thank you, Kat. If you want to expand upon that, let me know. I don't really know what you meant. Let's say Steve Simmons says, what's up with that cop that released the bomber photos? Apparently it shows no neck wound on the kid. Yeah. Yeah, so I, for a brief second, it's weird how I barely, I click in the middle of the Alex Jones show and I see that Jones is talking about how there's this photo of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev and there's no throat wound, and he's out of the boat. And I think what that indicates is that that injury came later. Like they started grabbing him, and then they said, "What the fuck was all that screaming about?" Because Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was screaming, "We didn't do it," while they were shooting at him in the boat. So what they were basically doing was, what the fuck was all that about? And then all of a sudden, he starts yelling, "Help! Help!" So what do? They grab him by the throat. They start squeezing his throat. Maybe even collapsed his trachea, maybe, and that's why they had to perform the trach. Anyway, regardless, they could have just said, slit his throat. And then at that point, it's possible that the police collapsed his trachea somehow. Anyway, should you have sympathy for these guys? I'm of the opinion, I guess I've been kind of running my mouth about how much I hate the people in the know, and I kind of described it last night to somebody as, I basically look at them as collateral damage. So, if there's people that's in the power structure but the problem is that I can't really do that right now anymore because I feel like I'm starting to learn that a lot of the ways by which people are being compromised is they are eventually made aware of global blackmail scenarios, and that what ends up happening is they sort of play ball because they have to. But I mean, still, you could resist in even the slightest way. Like you can't just be like, "Oh, it's all good." And then let them placate you, because that is simply not the case. In fact, if anything, waking people up to their evil deeds causes great PR damage and does create mutiny, basically, which is what needs to happen. But, whenever there's mutiny, then there's like shows of force. They say, look what you did to this innocent person. They may even televise something or show that person, what they did as a result of breaking their, code of conduct for the cabal. So it's really hard. It's really hard to. It's almost like you want them to just wake up so that when opportunities arise, they can do something about it, or just wake up so that they can at least push back upon or temper the powers that be. But certainly the powers that be have their agendas, and they have their fail-safes. And honestly, tomorrow is going to be very telling, in my opinion, of how they cover the Aurora thing, if they will even cover the Aurora thing, in the mainstream media. Because I'll still be on the fence. If they just manage to not cover Aurora whatsoever, and they just talk about Trayvon all day long, and they may briefly mention Aurora, because I really do suspect that there is going to be pretty heated protest going on in Aurora. And let me go ahead and tell you, I don't know if they're going to have that sucker locked down, because if they're going to have Stephen Barton and a lot of Sandy Hook people out there, that's like a breeding ground for potential domestic terrorists of the conspiracy theorist sort, which may in fact be breeding like crazy in Colorado, in fact, because of certain things. Like I think you have a town in Colorado willing to issue licenses for shooting the drones down out of the sky, Okay. So let me take a look at some more comments. Let's see. You break the laws at least 3 times a day. Most people do. Yeah, like when it comes to like going over the speed limit or something like that. But I don't do any. I've never even touched an illegal substance. I'm not saying anything wrong with illegal substances. I haven't done it, and I'm very mindful of the laws. And once I'm aware of a law, then I make pains to never like break the law. So Jokul says, "Hi Tommy, live here in Colorado. I know 100% about 911 or 9/11 and Sandy Hook and Boston bombing. Can you tell me why I bought into the Aurora shooting? You think it's because it's 22 miles away, just wanting a though? I don't know, but you're buying into it. You mean you don't believe it's a conspiracy? And I mean, well, it's right. It's kind of right there. Like, there's the Boston bombing. If you think that's a conspiracy, you think 9/11's a conspiracy, and Sandy Hook are conspiracies, then you'll come to understand that obviously for that to be the case, the mainstream media and the Supreme Court, the most, if not all, people that are put into a position of government. Especially when you learn, say the Federal Reserve behind it, which means that they have infinite money, they have the ability to compromise people or sort of stage things, like in the Boston bombing. If you say that, well, then you're likely to believe in, or Sandy Hook, crisis actors. So, you know, is there perhaps a reason that you can substantiate as to why? Actually, there's plenty. There's plenty of disinformation for you to pull from. However, if you're thinking that, it doesn't seem like it's a conspiracy. It has a lot to do with the vast amount of sheep. There's only a small percentage of the population who even cares about things on the news, and then there's an even smaller population than that who's willing to question things. So, you know, I don't know. So, if you want to know why I know it's a conspiracy, then take a look at the videos I have. CNN edits out the knife, Aurora trajectory analysis. Actually, just go to my channel where it says, where it shows the featured video, and that featured video is titled James Holmes Based on Me, and I Blew the Aurora Up. And if you watch that whole video and you look at the description, I have everything linked, all the videos, basically, which add up all of the inconsistencies with the official story. And in fact, well, anyway, that adds up all the inconsistencies with the official story, you can take a look at that. I mean, it's you know, they tore those theaters down. I mean, witnesses could not understand how the bullets were, say, the official story was that the bullets came through the walls and created shrapnel injuries, when they know that they saw flashes, pops, hisses in their theater, which is the theater they didn't even go into. And they received shrapnel injuries. They heard firecrackers going off and smoke coming out of the firecrackers. So there were explosives that were going off in Theater 8. And then they had to justify this by saying bullets were coming through the wall. So they wanted to go back in. And they were it was even in the news. It was like, victims want to return to the theater in order to reconnect with, or somehow find closure on what they experienced. And that was very odd. I don't know who was behind that, but obviously certain people that were resisting were definitely behind that. And guess what they did to those theaters? They tore them down. They tore them down. And in fact, they wanted to rename Theater 9 Theater XD, which makes the little laughing really hard smiley face, you know. That's what I mean by trolling, because it's also a trolling thing to do that, and then it's like, it's equivocating, because it's like, you'll call it out, and then they'll be like, no, you're so stupid. Here's another example of how extreme digital is signified by XD, or, you know, we came up with that logo back in, you know, 1999 or something like that. And it's like, yeah, but you renamed that Theater X with the smiley face as a laughing hard sort of thing. Anyway, Killop says, we live in America? Oh yeah, you're talking about how people break laws. Will says, you weren't alive during Nixon. Government was scared of the people. As protesters surrounded the White House, Nixon had buses parked end to end. Obama shut down the Occupy movements. This country has killed over 10 million since the Korean War. Killing a few million more don't matter to them. Dude, you were so right. William, you were so right, bro. Like that is, that's where we're at. The problem really comes from the lack, like how good they've become at literally keeping the public dumbed down, keeping the public pacified. And I'm so sick of these people not giving a shit. Some of these people are like part of the power structure, and they're like, it's totally fine. It's totally good that we're part of the power structure. And, you know, I need to take a look and see how long I've been on there. So I got about 15 minutes left. Okay. Let me look at your comments. No more comments? Okay. Oh, man, dude. I just, you may ask yourself, like, who is this person that thinks that Barack Obama watches his videos? Well, you know, what do I do throughout my day, and you know, what kind of life do I live? Well, if it weren't for some of the first-hand subjective experiences that I've had throughout all of this, then I would be in constant state of doubt, maybe even oscillating between sheep and conspiracy theorists. But there is nothing indicating it. Like as I walk around, I think there might have only been one time that somebody was staring at me the whole time I was in this coffee shop, and I was like, I was kind of like aggravated that this person wouldn't stop staring at me. And then the person walks out to a truck that had a Ron Paul sticker on it, so it was a conspiracy theorist. And I was like, oh, cool, like somebody knew who I was, you know, like I would have never, from you know, the internet, basically. And I just walked out the door and I said, hey, I like your sticker. And he said, yeah, he said, thank you. And I just kind of walked back inside. But I don't know. I wonder if one day I'll ever be vindicated, or if if it's all going to get swept under the rug like it seems to be doing, and I just get to live the rest of my life having felt a certain way about things, you know. All right. Well, I guess I'll just go down the Godlike Productions wall here. Michael Moore to divorce. I didn't even think that. I don't even see that person, you know, being married to a woman. Maybe he is. I shouldn't say such things. I don't know. See, banks down for maintenance. I guess I'm actually kind of excited to see what happens tomorrow, because I'll be able to use the Aurora thing as a sort of springboard as to figuring out what's going on. And I'm sorry, I'm probably boring everyone right now. I'm just kind of running out of information to talk about. I guess it would be most interesting to talk about, like, you know, I guess everyone would potentially be watching to see what my reaction is to my primary suspect being alive, and my reaction is whatever. I kind of expected it. I was like, they're going to whip that out. They could possibly whip that out, and if the person actually was dead, they would have basically done something to sort of kill him in the mainstream by now, because it was too much of a legal problem. Like, I could have, if he was actually dead, I could have been like, yeah, he's definitely dead. Let me look up the death records, or let me force him into the spotlight, or there's all kinds of PR angles I could have played with that, and I never did because I never had concrete proof of it, and they never bothered to show him, afterwards. In fact, they even put in sort of like somebody that sort of looks like him, in a way of trying to get me to like make a big deal out of, look, he's dead, he's dead. They wanted to capture me on that, and I never really did go out. I never really did go out on a limb in the public with it. Um, and when I did, I basically say in the video, there's a possibility that they might have just tried to capture him, and maybe they did. Maybe he was in fact captured and was interrogated. And the reason that it got the entire U.S. government involved was this person was spilling the beans, and all that information was getting back to whoever else, like could have went across the Atlantic Ocean to India or any number of governments, basically. So, that single event right there may have been very sort of bombshell to people within the power structure, because they did not stage a retrieving of this person until a week later. So if the spa shooting happened on a Sunday, which would have been the abduction of this individual. And this is actually more implicative. Like, there's more information to gain from this now that I know that this person's alive. So, it might not have necessarily been that person. There was 3 other people that were involved. There's a number of people that would have, in the, law enforcement, that would have had to have been a part of it. So this could have been any number of people that was at that spa. But I'm still maintaining that I think it was this specific person. And if you want to know what my position is now, it was that specific person. The guy went in there and stuck him up and had him maybe lay on his back, and he duct taped his hands and zip tied his hands and duct taped his mouth, and took him out to just walked him out to the SUV. He was driving some sort of a maroon SUV. Maybe it was a black SUV, I can't remember, and would have thrown him in there, and then ran, and drove off, possibly to the Sikh temple, at which point he took the man into the Sikh temple, and then they performed a investigation. And certainly this is simply the case. If you know there's a conspiracy, and you want to either reveal a conspiracy or figure out or really get back at whoever was behind it, you can't just pop somebody and kill them. I mean, you could at least point the gun at them and say, fess up before I kill you. In fact, you could even do more damage to that person to get them to admit aspects of the conspiracy, and then just leave them alive, Like, you may have a morbid fascination for killing them, but, there's more damage to be done revealing things. So the president and the head of the FBI and the head of the CIA, well, to be head of the CIA, getting involved, I think indicates that things got international with that event, and it may be that they staged. This is possible that they staged, or they said, or they ran a story about going into the Sikh temple a week later. Now, he might have been there a whole week, but I just highly doubt that the U.S. government would allow this guy to be captured for a whole week. It's possible that they ran that story, just like our friend Cat Ruby kind of says here. Says, Cat Ruby says, I'd rather concentrate on what you got right. So, quote, hello Thomas, unquote, scenario makes it yours to do the work. I wish I knew. I don't know what you mean, Cat. If you want to expand on that, that'd be really cool. Yeah, I guess that's what you're saying. It was that whole going into the temple was a way of saying hello, Thomas Brinkley. You did do this, and that is an intense feeling. That's an intense feeling. What the fuck am I doing here? That's scary. It really is. Anyway, that's why well, in 10 minutes, it will be the shooting. It'll be the time of the shooting. And my crazy ass is pseudo afraid. I don't know. I'm not really all that afraid. I'm just throwing that. I'm just playing around with it. Actually, I'm just hanging out on the air. I don't know what else to say. Let's see. There's really nothing to be laughing about. Everything really sucks right now. All right. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. I honestly think from the way the mainstream media is going to spin stuff tomorrow, that if you're wise, you'll be able to, you know, maybe just by saying it, they're going to like mess up my capacities for understanding stuff. We'll really sort of like, you'll read it like Braille, basically, and you'll sort of figure out where things are going, who's really pulling the strings, and what to expect in the future. The reason that he would even show up to troll me in the first place is that it was in Colorado, and Colorado is just one of those systems of the power structure which has not been tapped into yet. The resistance faction has yet to have encroached upon Colorado, so to speak. Maybe upon a lot of things, but I know specifically Colorado because Jana Winter or whatever, this journalist who was involved in the Aurora Operation Cover-Up, basically was being threatened by Colorado, and it seems that you know, they're still going forward with certain aspects of the Aurora Cover-Up in general. So you know, there is quite a bit to speculate that Colorado is sort of holding out. And, you know, there's all those stereotypes of how not stereotypes, but all those conspiracy theories that Colorado is a hub for underground dumps and cities, and that the nukes are over there and everything. It's just really sort of amazing that the Aurora shooting would happen in Colorado, because it tends to be the seat, you know, in the conspiracy theory circles, people believe that Colorado is sort of the seat of the cabal. Basically, there's like this place where they do all of these ritualistic sacrifices, and it's like a bad place, basically, in Colorado. And when the operation actually happens to occur in Colorado, it was like very hyper bad for the cabal, because I was like, I'll just yank some of the machinery out of that and let it come crashing down right there in the heart of the situation. So when Jaina Winter was threatening her Coloradoan handlers with people like her, people she was speaking to were saying, we're not going to reveal anything more to you because, quote unquote, Colorado. Can't Colorado is what they were saying. So that's why, you know, you could see the local news being forced to possibly put out the stuff that they did with this person, and and if the mainstream media follows suit, then I will be rather pessimistic as to what I think is going to happen. And it does seem that there are forces going one way and forces going the other way. That I just let me look at your comments real quick. Yep, that's right. So they're not releasing the. I already went through that last night. They were not releasing the autopsy on the kid that they shot in Orlando, and that's the big fear. That's the big fear, that they're just placating the conspiracy theorists, making it look like the insiders are actually bringing down a conspiracy when they're not, drumming up the kind of misleading the resistance. And I must put out there, I have to put out there that I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Something to talk about. I don't know. Oh boy. Come here. All right. But when it comes to the Trayvon thing, like I haven't actually watched everything that is to be watched with regard to Obama's response. But why would he do that? Why did he even come out? Well, the thing is that they need to smokescreen the protests that are going to occur in Colorado over the Aurora shooting, over the gun control debate, and that to justify or sort of kick up the dirt so that they can have all these protests occurring for Trayvon Martin, which there is a possibility that there will not be the response that they're hoping for. If they don't get the response that they're hoping for, oh look, I'm over the hour. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully. In 3 minutes' time, that shooting was supposed to have happened. Now, you may just watch me die. So, let's go ahead and stay on the air together. You don't want to be here for that, Kevin. You need to go. Let's stay on the air together. Okay, because here it comes. You guys gonna watch it happen? My booby traps are ready. Hmm. Cat Ruby says, "Attention, William. I just can't watch that Snordster after his tribute to Nelson Mandela, killer, kill the Boers, communist." Oh, I don't know. I like Snort. I like Snordster. He's pretty cool. You know, we can all be wrong about things. Many of us will change our minds. Even people on the inside end up changing their minds. Let's see. Donnie Brooks says, "It's one well-fed kitty." You know, I just realized that midnight here is not midnight over there. So I guess I have 2 hours to live. All right. You know, I'm just joking. Maybe I should go somewhere and bunker down. I think I will. All right. Good night, guys. I'll see you. I'll see you later. I want to let midnight hit first. You know, isn't that the funniest thing? That because there's a conspiracy, there's a constant weight, a constant anvil being held all over our heads. And the funniest part is that I have nothing sort of confirming anything I'm saying in the mainstream. And so there's this, oh, it's midnight. All right. Good night, everybody, and I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Good night.